Let's do it. Great to
Okay.
see you.
Nice to see you too, Neal. So listen, by the way, I'm really enjoying Courtside, your nightly recap of what's going on legally with our president.
Thank you. Yeah, I started it on alert like on day one of the election, and it's been going on. I think I did my 29th Instagram episode last night. I do them every night, just 5 minutes or so, recapping what's going on. So
Well,
please watch.
yeah, well, everybody's enjoying it, at least in my world. They think you're so smart, Neal.
Oh, well, someone's deluded, but thank you.
All right, so let's talk about what's going on. So please explain how these 17 attorney generals are joining the attorney general in Texas to file a lawsuit about assaults in many states. So give us the scoop. What is going on? Because I have some friends. I was taking a walk, and they were quite frankly freaking out a little bit about this.
Okay, yeah. So I want to back up and just describe the case and all of that. But before doing that, let me cut to the chase. There's nothing to worry about this lawsuit. It's a joke. And as I said last night, that's mean to jokes to say that because it's a piece of garbage. Okay, so here's what happened a couple days ago. Texas, through their attorney general, Ken Paxton, who's under FBI investigation because he's been turned in by 8 of his top aides for corruption, files this piece of paper in the Supreme Court that says, I think that there's election fraud in 4 other states, and so I'm suing these other 4 states. And he sues not in the local court or something. He goes straight to the U.S. Supreme Court because at our founding, we had a rule that said that if one state sues another, that you bring that right in the U.S. Supreme Court. And it's designed for things like boundary disputes, like where the Texas border is or something like that. It's not designed for like, I don't like your election rules, so I get to sue on their behalf. But in any event, he files that piece of paper saying, I want leave to file a big complaint against these 4 states. Then, yes, oh, and by the way, that lawsuit, not joined by the top lawyers in Texas, the Solicitor General who represents Texas before the Supreme Court, that official refused to sign it, as best we can tell. So they had to hire some outside person to file that lawsuit. Okay, so then yesterday, 17 states filed what's known as an amicus curiae brief, a friend of the court brief. And you're allowed to do that in any case. And that allows you to say, I disagree with this, I agree with this, whatever. These 17 states didn't say, we agree that this lawsuit is right. What they said is, we think, Supreme Court, that this is an important issue and you should allow Texas to file their complaint. That led a bunch of headlines to be 17 states side with Trump and so on. And certainly some today have and have said, we think that there is merit to this. But also 20 states today on the other side said, we don't think that there's any merit to this. And we think it's, and filed their own amicus brief, their own friend of the court brief on the other side. So you've got dueling briefs that say this. And, I think normally when 17 attorneys general say something, the Supreme Court's, ears perk up and they tend to listen. This is one, though, where it is so nakedly political, what this brief is. I mean, this is a bunch of attorneys general who, they're not these aren't legal arguments at the end of the day. There's something else going on. And
Well,
so
everybody is saying Paxton wants a pardon. And it's sort of, is that what's going on here? And by the way, I mean, it's sort of disconcerting that attorneys general whose job it is to follow the law are getting sucked into this this political charade.
Yeah. So, I mean, with respect to, is Paxton doing this to seek a pardon? I don't have any special insight into that. I would think if you're seeking a pardon, you should file a better piece of paper with the Supreme Court than this piece of garbage. But nonetheless, maybe that's the best he's got.
Isn't he just trying to appeal to the president? That's
I mean, it could be that, and, this president has a pattern and practice of doling out pardons to his friends. Think Sheriff Joe Arpaio or Dinesh D'Souza or, General Michael Flynn. The list goes on, Conrad Black. I mean, we could go on and on about that. So there probably, there very well may be something like that in the works here. After all, Paxton is under a federal investigation. That's a federal FBI investigation. He also separately under a state court indictment for securities fraud and has been for several years. So, I mean, he does meet the general Trump qualifications for a lawyer, to working on his behalf. But in any event, the lawsuit, just as a matter of just pure law, is a joke. And the reason for that is there's no special interest one state has in the election procedures of another state. Because, you might have a kind of academic or personal interest, as if you're Ken Paxton and who's the president, of course, but there's no state qua state interest. And if you allowed Texas to complain about Georgia's voting rules, then what's to stop Georgia from complaining about Texas's voting rules, which, for example, voter ID, restrict, all sorts of things, minorities and the like? What's to stop Oklahoma from complaining about Texas's education rules and their school system and suing them on that? There's nowhere that this ends.
So do you think there's zero chance the Supreme Court will hear this case?
I think there's zero chance that the Supreme Court would ever grant any relief on the basis of this case. Yes. And I know that Ted Cruz has offered to argue the case, and the president has now accepted that offer. I very, very strongly doubt there will be oral argument in this case. If there is, Ted is actually a very good Supreme Court lawyer, but it doesn't matter. You can't go anywhere with this case. It is a dog start to finish. And so I know that so many of your viewers yesterday, when they saw those headlines, like 17 states side with Trump, started to think, oh my God, maybe there's something here. There's nothing. Nothing. I mean, it is pathetic. And by the way, the allegations in the complaint in the Texas complaint are the same ones that have been being litigated in all these different states. And Trump's lost 54 different challenges.
And there's states, right? There's specific states that went for Biden, and that those are the ones. So the 17 AGs are all focusing on just a handful of states.
Exactly. The Texas lawsuit is brought against 4 states, and so not against everyone. It's Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. And just a few hours ago, the attorneys generals of those states filed their brief in the Supreme Court, and it is as hard-hitting a brief as I've ever seen. They basically say this is sedition, and that the court shouldn't even entertain it. And it's some pretty heated rhetoric, probably more than I've ever seen in a brief, but maybe justified here. I mean, what's going on here? It's not just legally a joke. It is insidious. It's wrong. It's evil, Katie. It's Soviet in nature. It's trying to throw our democracy under the bus.
What about the 106 House Republicans who are backing this challenge, though, Neal? I mean, what of that?
I think that says a lot about those 106 Republicans. And that's a sad thing because, the Republican Party used to actually stand for principles like, just, not have to be lofty or anything, but like federalism, the idea that states have rights and they get to pick. And now they're celebrating this idea that, you can, if you're one state, sue another, or just like democracy, they're claiming election fraud. And with one hand, these 106 members, and with the other, a lot of these same folks are the ones going in these states and saying, throw out the election altogether and let state legislatures appoint their own slate of delegates to the Electoral College, which is the biggest, form of election fraud you can imagine, discounting not just some votes, but every vote in a state. I mean, it is preposterous. And so, yeah, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Just going to say, so even some of the justices who were appointed by President Trump, you don't think that they will look kindly on any of this?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, the president likes to think he has his justices up there and starts tweeting out pictures of them yesterday and the like. No chance. No chance. This is going nowhere. We're still, like it or not, in a world in which there is something called law, and that system has rules. And those rules are as clear as day that this lawsuit has nothing to it. And so that's why I expect the president to pivot, when he loses this thing in the next few days, and then start trying to monkey in Congress with his 106 pals and try and do something there.
What the hell has happened to all the lawyers in this country who are kind of pursuing this line of argument? And will some of these high profile people, is there a chance they make it disbarred? I don't know. I read the other day that there's an effort or conversation about trying to get Rudy disbarred and some of these high profile.
Well, first of all, it's not that many lawyers when I say what's happened to all of these lawyers. I mean, the president can't actually get many people to represent him. And the folks he gets are, I guess, they're lawyers, but technically they passed the bar, I guess. But he's had difficulty in getting actual legal, serious legal representation. I don't know that anyone gets disbarred because I think that standard is really high or sanctioned or something. And look, I am someone who believes that lawyers should advocate for their clients and so on. And generally, I think it's right to blame the clients, not the lawyers. But when you're making totally frivolous arguments, and these are frivolous, there's something wrong about that. And so, we'll see what happens as a result of it. But, to me, it's not the lawyers as much as it is a party, a president. I mean, he is our chief law enforcement official, our president of the United States, the most important official in the United States. And here he is saying this kind of nonsense. And the idea that that there are some Republicans who wouldn't condemn this, I find crazy. And I'm so thankful to people like Jeb Bush or Senator Cornyn, who've said this lawsuit is a joke and has nothing to it.
And Ted Cruz, and you play back some of the things that Ted Cruz said during the 2016 election, and the fact that he'll basically sacrifice everything, including his dignity, to argue this before the Supreme Court just seems cuckoo, doesn't it?
Well, I guess I'm not going to go there, on that and Cruz, but I do think if there is an argument, you could be Daniel Webster, like the greatest Supreme Court advocate of all time. You still are not going to get a majority of the Supreme Court to buy this bogus, undemocratic, and reprehensible legal move that Texas has made here.
All right. Well, that's going to have to be the last word because it's 6:02. I promised
Thank you so much.
Out of anyway, Neal, thanks for the update. Really appreciate it.
If you guys like what you see, subscribe right here.